Hi, this is Hot Chalk Book Talk, Volume 3, Episode 6 for Kristin Hanna's The Women, and Born on the 4th of July by Ron Kovic. Did a 2-for-1 today. So both novels are about veterans returning home from the Vietnam War and the struggles they face adjusting to post-war life and the lack of support they face, the lack of support they received upon returning home from Vietnam. So first up, I'm going to talk about The Women. The Women is a historical fictional novel that follows Frankie McGrath as she tries to make her family proud by not enlisting, but enrolling in the Army. She's an officer as a nurse during Vietnam. What follows are the heroes of war, the struggle to adapt to society when she returns from war, and the journey of loving and healing both other people and herself. The book was published in 2024, very recent. It's 471 pages, and it's a junior reading level. However, given the graphic violence of war and the blunt descriptions of post-traumatic stress syndrome, this is a novel most appropriate for juniors and also seniors, so definitely a higher content level. The next book is Born on the 4th of July by Ron Kovic. This book is autobiographical and nonfiction, published in 1976 and is 224 pages. Like Hannah's fictional character McGrath, in real life, Kovic struggles to return when he returns from the war as a veteran and a paraplegic, having his spinal cord shattered from being shot in combat in Vietnam. Kovic struggles and fights for the rights of veterans and finds a deeper purpose upon his returning to the States after the war. So why these two particular books? So they do have something in common besides Vietnam. The Women is a popular book right now. It was shortlisted for the National Book Award, which I've spoken about in other Hot Talks, and it's a recent addition to the Great Falls High Library. As historical fiction goes, Ron Kovic is briefly mentioned in The Women, so there's kind of a crossover for these two books. Both books have pivotal scenes that take place in the 1972 Republican National Convention, fighting for veterans' life, which both really is what these two books are about. Not so much combat and gory detail of the war in Vietnam, but it's after Vietnam, which brings me to my next point about veterans' rights. Both characters, Kovic and the fictional character McGrath, have harrowing experiences during the war, but the bigger, harder struggle comes when they return home from the war. And a brief excerpt from Born on the 4th of July summarizes both characters' struggles pretty clearly. A chaplain says to Kovic, "Your fight is just beginning. Sometimes no one will want to hear what you're going through. You're going to have to learn to carry a great burden, and most of your learning will be done alone. Don't feel frightened when they leave you. I'm sure you will come through it all okay." And as tough and as harrowing and difficult as the topic is, both books do have a positive ending, which I'll refer to later. Hannah's writing is a little bit more polished and sophisticated than Kovic's. The 472 pages moves very swiftly because of the fictional narrative of it. However, Kovic uses a technique that's interesting, where he refers to himself in first person and in third person, almost as he's a separate person from when he left for the war. And both characters address that, essentially saying that the person they were when they left for Vietnam is dead. That person doesn't exist anymore. And Kovic encompasses that writing tool. Both characters acknowledge the person who first went there, like I said, are not there. Neither are an easy read. Both are eye-opening and complement each other as far as books go about Vietnam and this piece of American history. While the stories are difficult, each book, like I said earlier, does end on a positive note. Happy is probably not the right word, but positive is probably more accurate. So before I end, a big thank you to all the nurses, combat or otherwise, and thank you to all the veterans combat or otherwise. Thank you for your service and your time and your devotion. So if any of those books, Kristin and Hannah's The Women, Ron Kovic's 4th of July, interest you, swing by the Great Falls High Library. Thanks.